Are you looking to grow revenues, increase profitability, or obtain financing? If so, you came to the right place.
Running a business is all about leadership. How do you become a better leader? Learn from the successful entrepreneurs and business owners how to lead your organization more effectively. That's why we created Leadership Live at 8:05, Talking Small Business, to help you succeed with your host, Andrew Frazier, Business Growth Pro and CFO and founder of the Small Business Pro University. Every Tuesday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern, we're joined by experienced entrepreneurs and business owners who share their secrets to success via live stream. Also, every Friday morning, we release a new podcast episode. Either way, you will learn about developing your business leadership skills from our roster of highly performing guest experts. Leadership Live is one of the many valuable resources provided through the Small Business Pro University, empowering business owners to learn, profit, and grow. Find out more at sbpro.u.com.
Good evening and welcome back to Leadership Live at 8:05. I'm your host, Andrew Frazier, and excited to be here with you once again. As you know, your business can only go as far as you're prepared to lead it. And there's so many things that you need to know as a business owner that it's impossible to know them all. But it's critical to continually develop your leadership skills and your business knowledge to be able to move your business further, faster. And that's really what this show is all about. You know, we bring in great business owners, people who understand small business, who have done and been in your shoes, and also who understand and have a specific expertise that can share valuable insights with you. So definitely excited about tonight's show. As you know, we've passed 5 years of the show, so we've got over 250 episodes, and definitely appreciate everybody tuning in and making, tuning in both live and after the fact. So, but let me just introduce our guest real quick. So, today our topic is going to be leading with value and really turning community and content into revenue. Definitely in this day and age, content and community are critical. I learned several years ago that every business needs to be a media business. So you can't be a media business without content. But also, community is really the way to connect with people in your target market. And that's really the future of where all businesses and your success is going to lie. So very excited about talking to Matthew Holman this evening. He has a lot of experience and insights into this. And, this could be very important and helpful for growing your business. So let me bring him on. Hey, Matt, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, Andrew. How are you?
I'm excellent. Thanks for joining in. And I'm excited about having a great chat with you.
Me too.
Definitely it's an important topic, and you've got some experience and insights, so can't wait for you to share them with the audience, and I'm sure I'm going to learn some things too.
Awesome. Can't wait to dive in.
Excellent. So before we jump in, why don't you take a few minutes and talk a little bit about your journey? How did you get to where you are now, and what are some of the key milestones and lessons along the way?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the fun things about my story is that it's not just like a story about a career, but it's a story about kind of finding who I am in the business world and who I want to be and how I want to show up, but also what I can be special at or different at. So for a long time, I was working as a B2B SaaS marketer at a great company called eHub. And I'm good at that. I'm not saying that not that I was bad at it or anything, but it never felt necessarily like special. And you often feel kind of like a little bit lost trying to stay afloat of all the different strategies and tactics, budget, all those things. And for me, I had a really interesting kind of couple things happen to me all at once. And one of those things was that my now wife started working at the company where I work, and she was the CEO and founder's sister. So while that was, maybe a little exciting for me, it was also a little dangerous. And also feeling very much strongly the entrepreneurship bug, wondering if entrepreneurship was going to be a better path for me to kind of realize the things that I wanted to work on, realize personal wealth, growth, development, all those things. And so I took a leap. I left that comfortable job, both to be able to keep dating my wife in peace, which my now wife, which has worked out, but also to get into the entrepreneurship. And I joined as a marketing co-founder. It is a small subscription app called Qpilot or AutoShip Cloud. And what was really interesting about that is joining that company, I was a solo marketer with essentially just a handful of employees and trying to build a product, market it. Already had quite a few customers, but working on expanding our reach and role. And so around the same time, I had another really close friend who was a sole marketer at a bootstrap startup. And we just started a little breakfast meetup with him and I and a couple other friends to get together and talk shop. And as part of that, this started to grow a little bit, right? It was really all about just bringing people together. Hey, what are you working on? How are you selling? How are you navigating? How are you building this? What lead magnet or landing page builder are you using? And so those breakfasts the irony is the breakfasts weren't that well attended. I thought it'd be more convenient for people to drop in before work, but we started doing it at lunch. And the group started to grow. And really all early on, our group was just really all about, say 10, 15 people in a room, go around, introduce yourself and share the one problem that you're working on. And then the group would source answers for you. And people really like that. And I had a buddy who said, hey, this should be a thing. You should do a big event. And I had no clue about hosting events or community at the time. This is, 6, 7 years ago. And, so we started to do that, and after doing that, I started to be successful with it. So my career started this interesting path or trajectory of working on SaaS businesses and subscription-based businesses, and ultimately leading to consulting and a lot of work in that space, while at the same time building a community that is now revenue generating. We're here in Utah. We're focused on e-commerce companies. We host a couple conferences a year, monthly workshops, lunch and learns. We have a really active Slack group, an event newsletter. And it's just been kind of really fun for me, because I went from feeling like, then that struggle as a SaaS marketer to feeling like I kind of found my calling, which is both helping people figure out like recurring revenue from a consulting standpoint, but also community building and what people are going to find value, and creating a place where people can come together and connect and learn. And that's one of the reasons I love doing podcasts and shows like this, Andrew, is because it allows me to kind of share and educate, because I have benefited so much from great leaders like you too.
Okay. Excellent. So definitely, it's important to connect with others, especially when you're an entrepreneur, business owner. That's a big part of your job. So, building a community makes it a lot easier.
Right.
But that doesn't mean building a community is easy. So
it might look easy to some, but it's a lot of work.
Some people say like it's simple but not easy. So, and we're going to talk about why and how and some best practices around that. But before we do that, this show is one of the brain trust initiatives that we have through Small Business Pro University. So I want to just play a short video so everybody sort of knows what Small Business Pro University is all about. Many small businesses experience low or no revenue growth, and the owners are not making enough money. I founded Small Business Pro University to help you break that cycle by empowering you with greater knowledge and enhanced skills to lead your organization more effectively. Over the past 15 years, I've collaborated with organizations like the Small Business Development Center, Rising Tide Capital, Empower the Village, NJMEP, Rutgers University, and SCORE to work one-on-one with over 1,000 business owners and teach tens of thousands of people about business. My experience includes serving as a naval officer, managing businesses, graduating from MIT, earning an MBA from NYU, and achieving the CFA designation, which has prepared me to accomplish my mission of helping 1,008,000 business owners to sell more, maximize profit, and finance growth by 2028. My vision is to create the ultimate business ecosystem for entrepreneurs. Small Business Pro University empowers entrepreneurs like you to run their businesses more professionally and create sustainable enterprises. We employ my proven proprietary Masterpreneur Playbook framework to guide your journey along the Masterpreneur path and facilitate your Masterpreneur evolution to work on your business and scale faster and easier. Small Business Pro University provides access to valuable resources, partnerships, and relationships that will help you to sell more, maximize profit, and finance growth. Our Masterpreneur initiatives include the Small Business Pro Network, 100 plus expert-led multimedia courses, intensive training workshops, Spanish language training, Leadership Live at 8:05 live stream and podcast, in-person Power Breakfast events, and advisory coaching, consulting, and training services. Good evening. Welcome back to Leadership Live. I'm your host, Andrew Frazier. I'm here with Matt Holman, and we're talking small business. Our topic tonight is leading with value, community and content, turning that into revenue. So, Matt, I always like to start the show with definitions, just to level set everybody, make sure we're all on the same page. So when we talk about community, what does that mean to you?
I think that's a really great question because it means so many different things. Like you could argue that anybody here who has an Amazon Prime membership is part of a community just by paying for something that other people don't get for free. But I think what's helpful is to think of, I like to think of it in a couple different ways of our different versions of what community means. So a community could be something that's a paid membership. So meaning you do have to pay to have access to it. So like to be a member of Small Business Pro University, right? That can be a community. It's people that are enrolled in that, they're paying to have that. I do think that there are also online communities. So meaning, say I'm subscribed to a newsletter, which is a fairly loose definition, but I do think applies where say you're following somebody online or you've bought something from a brand that you really like. That can make you feel like you're part of a community. But I think the ultimate kind of like true definition, especially for what we're talking about, is feeling like people that identify with other people in that group or community. So thinking about local like religious chapters, political groups, local community activations. I think those are really great definitions of community because it's something where you're choosing to be involved and that you choose to be a part of that. And you feel like that's part of who you are, I think is a really great way to think about community.
Excellent. So definitely there's all kinds of different communities.
Right.
But as we talked about before, most of them probably aren't very well run. Right. And that's a challenge with building communities. Mm-hmm. And why is that?
I think the hard part is on the outside looking in, people want a community because it feels like a really easy way to make a buck, right? So you might hear stories of an online brand, for example, that has a Facebook community of 100,000 people and how they post in that group about a new product launch and they sell out in 2 minutes. And so it might feel like, hey, I'm going to start a Facebook community so I can sell money to them and make profit off of that. The hard part with a lot of those things is that people know that people feel when a community is too salesy, when they feel like it's not aligned with their best interests. I think that when you start to see large communities that start to get monetized in the wrong way, you can kind of just call that out as it's the beginning of the end. So when we're thinking about building communities, we should be thinking about the needs of our community members. And so coming back to this Facebook group example, Facebook groups usually start around a common need or problem. We see this in the e-commerce space all the time, where maybe everybody that's bought a hydro jug in the past wants to go join a Facebook group to see funny pictures about how people are using their hydro jug, right? And that might just start with a fun way to connect and a fun way to hear funny stories or see silly pictures of hydro jugs out in the wild. And over time, if that group is nurtured and cultivated, that you can start to use that community as a resource, getting product feedback, doing early releases on products. So if people feel like they belong and they feel like they have some kind of ownership in the outcome, they're much more likely to show up and want to give something back to the people that are organizing that community.
Okay, excellent, excellent. So, I got my hydro jug too. So you're not the only one. So I guess we got some community.
We do. We do.
So definitely appreciate everybody tuning in. And this is a little bit. The show has a community around it, and the university, and definitely appreciate everybody tuning in. Good to see you back here with us again, Daryl, Kelly, Bradley, Russ, Ariel. Appreciate your comments, and look forward to a great evening. So Matt, if you don't have a community and you want to build a community, and you're starting from zero, Russ wanted to know, what are some of the first things that you should do?
Yeah, I think what's important is to keep in mind that it's really difficult to build a community where you have everything planned and mapped out. So, like with our community commerce catalyst, it has evolved over time to what it is today. And honestly, I have never felt more clear about our vision and roadmap for the future than I have in the past few months. A year or two ago, I felt completely different about that. And it, like I said, it really just started out as like a little marketing meetup with a handful of people, and that slowly has grown and grown over time and changed. So I think the most important thing is to come up with a quality reason why there should be a community. And that community could be something as simple as coffee meetups. It can be something as simple as like, hey, I'm inviting everybody over to my house. We're going to cook some chili and just talk about finance, or we're going to talk about AI. That's something that's happening all over the world right now. Our little AI groups are popping up as a really great example of this. And so I think the trick here is one, not feeling like you have to figure it all out or build this massive roadmap that's going to unlock millions in revenue for you from day one, but also keep in mind that a lot about community is showing up over and over again. Like, Andrew, you kind of blew me away when you said the show's been live for 5 years. You have 250 episodes. So that's basically every week you've been doing this for 5 years. Most people don't make it a month or two doing it consistently week over week over week, right? So to think about it, it's just coming around up with a simple reason to get together. And even if there's so many different types of communities we see in the business world, where, say, I'm trying to bring together people that want to learn, say, from my expertise, or I'm trying to bring together other experts that I want to learn from their expertise, or maybe it's other people that we're all in the same market, but we have a slightly different offering or a very different offering. We want to figure out how we can maybe co-market or partner as we're going after business potentially together. There are a lot of reasons why, as a business owner, we might create community, but thinking through just small meetups and what can we do there that feels value. Some of the very simple things we did early on was we just took a picture that we met together, say the four of us, we met for breakfast, we took a selfie and we posted it on LinkedIn, and we just shared what we talked about, and we tagged who was there and just asked if anybody would like to come to the next one. And I got to be honest, there were a couple times we posted that and nobody asked to come to the next one. But what happens is as you do this consistently, you get more and more people raising their hand. They're like, oh, wow, that looks really cool. And these people seem like they're working on the same problems as I am. So I want to come to this. And then next thing you know, we've got 10 people and 15 people. And then I invite a couple speakers to come out. We have 60 people. And so a lot of this is about a few months of just showing up, and paying attention and listening and trying to figure out, like whatever goal you have for that meetup, is the group meeting that goal for you? So I mentioned, like, say you want to collaborate with other experts to learn from them. Play with the format so that you feel like it works really well for you or for other attendees, right? Like I mentioned, going around a room and everybody introducing themselves, but other groups might be, hey, I'm just going to invite out a different speaker every time. Or, hey, out of the 5 people that come to the group, I'm going to task one of them each time, a different person each time, to present on something that they've worked on and been successful lately. So you can think through a lot of different formats. It's just a question of, like, again, active listening, but paying attention to why you wanted the group to be there in the first place, and making sure that the group is meeting that goal. And you can always develop and change and try new things as it starts to grow and gets a little bit of traction.
Okay. No, great points. Great points. I mean, definitely, um, you know, it's sort of like your business. Building a community is almost like building a business.
Yes.
You have to have a plan, because you got to know what you want to do, but it never works out the way you planned it to be. So,
Exactly.
but that's business.
Right.
But, just like in regular business, your community, to make it work, you have to have a target market. Who's most
Right.
likely to find value in your community?
Right.
And, how do you reach them? Because it's all about satisfying people's needs, want, and desires that
Mhm.
fit with yours,
Right.
and like your goals, because it's got to work for you, or you're not going to do it long term, and it's got to work for them, or they're not going to come. And many times you have to um, do many different iterations before you
Right.
find the right mix. I almost like it to, I think it's The Social Dilemma, the Facebook movie,
Yeah.
where he was like, I don't want to monetize it. I just want it to be cool. So,
And now look at it, right?
right. So, sometimes you got to invest before you monetize
Uh-huh.
to figure out the right value proposition. So,
Yeah, I'll say we start out the first, I'd say, 2 years, maybe even close to 3. I did it because I thought it would be a lead gen funnel for my consulting business. So
mhm,
I thought, hey, the more I build this up, I'll meet more and more people that potentially I could consult with. But I wasn't building it as a funnel. I just thought, hey, it allows me to meet more people and stuff. The irony is that early on, I was really horrible at telling people what I did. Like I would just, hey, I would introduce, hey, I'm Matt. Thanks for coming. We have this great speaker, this great panel, blah, blah, blah. And then it was like a year in where I was like, I need to remember to remind people that about what I do so that they know that. And but then what started to happen was, instead of realizing that, hey, this could be a funnel for consulting if I wanted to really, really make it that, but it would change what the group had become. Instead, I was like, hey, actually, there's some simple ways to start monetizing this. I've got a really clear ice group of ideal customers for these types of sponsors. I'm going to ask them, hey, will you cover lunch? And that's how a lot of that started. Hey, will you cover the cost of lunch? We'll give you a couple minutes. It's just a really easy thing to give some value back. And then it was like, hey, we're doing a bigger event. We're going to go a little bit deeper on some keynotes. I need some sponsors that want to put some dollars up. And then again, it was about 3 years in when we started to monetize it a little bit. And now have a very clear revenue model and are growing really fast and already on pace to blow through numbers this year. But again, a lot of that is just getting really good at identifying what your community wants, and that journey that we've been on of trying to create something special for the people here that's going to keep them coming back. And then the monetizing part is often just a little bit of figuring out what feels natural in the course of that community.
okay, no, it makes sense. And yeah, it's usually not an overnight success,
Right.
even though it
Right.
may seem like it. I've been in business. I've been full time doing this for 17 years, but I expect to be an overnight success in a couple years. So it takes a lot of legwork to really be able to be successful in business, and a lot of people don't really come into it with that understanding.
Right. Right.
So, you definitely, nothing happens overnight, or if it does, it's probably not going to last. So,
Right. Exactly.
um, so that's cool. So now, um, in person, virtual, what's the best type of community?
I think hybrid is what I would say, but I would say leaning heavily onto in person. The hard part with virtual is it's very, very easy for people to have something else come up. Like I love how you're doing this live. So it's, people can watch it later, but there's something to be said for joining live. But, webinars and some of the virtual stuff could be tricky. The formats are restrictive by the technology and what's kind of enabled there. But it's also, again, it's just really easy for somebody to register for something. So there's not a huge commitment. So it's easy to just put in your email. And then, something comes up or, my kid's appointment got rescheduled. Like, yeah, I'll just watch that later. But the hard part is that how many of us are really watching a lot of that stuff later? To me, it's just a bit of a bigger sell, or a harder sell. And so what I found that was started to work really well for me was because as a marketer with the consulting and all this the software stuff, we were doing webinars and virtual things and took a stab at starting an online community. And it was much harder doing it online than in person because in person there's a deadline. And so the fun part too as a marketer is if I'm marketing a webinar, I'm trying to get people to register and people to come, but a lot of people don't come. And then I'm registering what they missed and trying to give them an offer. But when it's an event, it's really easy to build up this go to market strategy where it's like, hey, we have this great thing happening in 3 weeks. Have you registered yet? It's 2 weeks. Have you registered yet? It's in 3 days. Don't miss out. It's 2 days, 1 day. It's happening today. Oh, here are pictures of what you missed. And the pictures in this that creates this FOMO effect. People see a great speaker, they see a crowd, they maybe see somebody that they would recognize or not. And so this creates this kind of like FOMO element. So people then are now mentally thinking, man, next time they do one of those, I got to make sure I go. And then we kick it off again. So we're doing these every month, these lunch and learns. And it's like, hey, we've got this one happening in a few weeks, And so I've found that the in-person works really, really well because it creates a deadline for somebody that you can't recapture that. We get asked all the time if we'll live stream our stuff, which we most likely never will, because that's part of the beauty of being in person. We do record some of our larger conferences and content because that's both for the speakers' benefit, but also for people that maybe missed a session or they were there, they want to rewatch that. And so we do have those things on our YouTube, but it's not a big part of our go-to-market strategy from the community. The big part is, hey, we just had this great big event. Did you come? If you didn't come, you missed out on this, this, and this. We're doing it again. You should be there. And so that's how I found it to work. And then I think if you can layer occasional virtual things on there, like for us, we have Slack so that people can connect, but it's the same ethos in the group. Like we want people to come because they learn something and then they meet other people that are working in their industry and they can help each other out. Our Slack group is just that. It's if you have a question, you can pop in there. If you're looking for a job or if you're looking to hire somebody, you can pop in there and post that. So for us, it's kind of blending both of those things, but I would say it's predominantly in person that has been a lot easier for us.
Okay. Okay, great. No, I mean, definitely, each has its pluses and minuses.
Right.
Like you have done a little bit of each, or maybe a lot of each. You know, probably started with I created what we call the Power Breakfast about 13 years ago, in person in Newark, New Jersey. And it was just because of a need that, there really wasn't a gathering of diverse business owners in Newark, despite Newark being mostly diverse.
Right.
And, and I was in the chamber, which wasn't really diverse. So we said, well, let's solve that problem. And 13 years later, we've had over 1,500 people come to our events over the period, help people get millions in sales as well as financing and build relationships and learn valuable stuff. So,
Mhm.
where there's a need, things can happen. Um,
Absolutely.
so that, really, actually, I got a short video. Let me just show you what the Power Breakfast
Oh,
is,
let's see
just
it.
so
Yeah.
everybody has a feel for it. Um, so this is what the Power Breakfast is all about. If you are looking to increase revenues, improve profitability, and or obtain financing for your business, you need to check out the Power Breakfast and Small Business Pro conferences.
My name is Andrew Frazier. One of the things we're here to do is supercharge your day.
Today's Power Breakfast has really been a phenomenal experience. I think it's exactly what business owners need, some true guidance of people who are genuine and really are leading them in the true direction of business growth and expansion.
The Power Breakfast is so important for the entrepreneurial community because it gives the various business people who come together an opportunity to interact and also do some business.
These events, hosted by Andrew Frazier, President and COO of Small Business Like a Pro, will supercharge your day.
I love
So,
the energy there. That was great.
yeah. So, but you can see I was a lot younger there. but it turned out to be one of the best things I've done, because directly or indirectly, I'd say 80% of my clients have come out of it, or a relationship that I developed through that.
Mhm.
So, it didn't happen overnight,
Right.
but you look several years later, and good things can happen. So now, in person, so we've both done in person, and now talk a little bit about the virtual. How is that different from in person, and what are some things to watch out for?
Absolutely. I think one of the hard things about virtual is that you don't always get immediate feedback, or you don't always get like eye contact feedback. So, we had a conference 2 weeks ago, a big conference, and so I get a lot of people who are telling me what they think or don't think. Sometimes they're just being nice, which is why we send out surveys after the fact, where people can be anonymous and tell us what they really think. But I do like that part of just meeting people in person. There's an energy there. And for the rest of the community, they're able to connect, they're able to meet people. So there's these connections that are happening that I'm not even facilitating at this point, right? They're in the room, they're talking, they're meeting. And I think that's one of the special things about in person. But so with virtual, I think the impact should be just a little bit different. You can still do some of like those matchmaking elements, but for us, what we've done that has been effective over the years is we also have a podcast related to subscriptions. I have a newsletter that we've been running for I don't know, 4 years now. Yeah, because we just passed 200 episodes ourselves there. And so the difference is the community is often more quiet. So I'll share a funny story about this. So our newsletter consistent goes out, good open rates, clicks. When I meet people in person, they tell me they're a subscriber, they have a big thing. But if I were to, when I make offers on those things, I don't always know how many people are taking advantage of them or not, unless they actually go all the way through with the offer. But last week, there's another conference for subscriptions being hosted in Kansas City called Sub Summit, and my newsletters for subscriptions. So I sent a special email out letting people know about an offer for tickets to go to this conference. But I forgot to update the subject line. I had copied a previous email that we send. So I said, are you going to Shop Talk, which is a totally different conference in Nevada or Las Vegas. Now, the funny part with making that mistake is, as within minutes of sending that, I had 6 or 7 people that replied right away to let me know I had made that mistake. And they were all dear friends of mine. And I had no idea they were subscribed to my newsletter. So it was kind of like, it was a fun moment for me where it was like, oh, so embarrassing. And every single one of them, I told them what had happened, and they're like, oh yeah, it's happened to all of us. Don't sweat it. I was still pretty embarrassed, but it was actually kind of heartwarming to think that there were a lot of really important, successful people that I know and that I've worked with, that I care a great deal about, that not only are subscribed to my newsletter, but they told me I'd made a mistake. The reason I'm telling this story is because I had no idea they were subscribers. Unless I'm like you're combing through your list of who's coming every time. So if you're doing a small event, an online event, and you're getting 10 or 15 or 20 people, you can see that list really easy. When you start to build up a newsletter with even just 1,000 people, it's hard to keep on top of that. So the pros and cons with online or virtual is that you can do more things at scale. Like there are more people watching this in other regions or locations than would be available if we were hosting this in Newark or in Salt Lake. So that's a really strong thing. But the harder part of that is it is often difficult to get some of that really close engagement without getting one-to-one. So there is a trade-off there. And I often think about virtual as being much, much more value-driven. You have to be providing education and value, or otherwise you'll lose engagement, and that they'll never come back to your stuff again. As opposed to an in-person event, if they're happening consistently, people know that you're there. They might not make every single one, but they do come out periodically, and you can get a lot of really great feedback from that. So, I think that the two strategies can play really well together. It's just being very purposeful and how you're leveraging that. And again, without making it sound like rocket science, it really is just about like thinking about, hey, we have a demand for this. People are asking for this. Like I mentioned, our lunch and learns, I get asked periodically about recording them. It's very rare. If I got asked more, we would do it. But at our conferences, people are always asking for the recording sessions. Newsletter and webinar stuff, like people like some of that engagement. They like our Slack groups and stuff too, because they can pop in and ask questions whenever they want. And that's what people want in that community, is they want a resource that they can use that's not just ChatGPT. So that's how I would think about it, is the pros and cons of what you want to get out of it, but ultimately what the people you're trying to help or reach, where they are and what is useful for them and what they're asking for.
Excellent. So, definitely, we've been talking about communities, and we're talking about business communities. So of course, people are interested in conversion, but that may not necessarily need to be the first and foremost goal initially, right. But really building a good community. But what strategy do you use for converting members? And I guess every community is different, but also what are some of the other common strategies that might be utilized?
Yeah, I would think that it's really important to keep in mind there's no one tactic that's going to be necessarily the best for everyone. But say when we're at a community, what we often like to do is similar to how Andrew has done, we'll use the beginning and the end of an event to highlight or market something else. Like say we're selling tickets for a paid conference, or we have a sponsor that's there with that. So we think about, we're trying to get people to engage virtually we put something up on a screen that they can scan a QR code or have a website that they can get access to. So thinking about at the event, we're highlighting as part of the event an offer. Okay. So that is how you should start, because there are going to be people that have watched a presentation, or they're thinking about this. They came to hear about this problem. And so you might get to conversion just right there. The second thing, though, is working the crowd. It is building relationships. Like, as we all know, we rarely buy something the first time we hear about the solution, right? So you're talking about getting into the crowd. Hopefully there's more than just one of you, if there's a lot of people there. But if it's just a handful of people, you're making sure you know these people, that you get to learn what they're working on, what they're doing. And if it's something you specifically can help do, you can offer them or invite them to take that offer, or to schedule a call with you or something like that. If they need something that you don't do, but somebody that does it, make that introduction. You want to be seen as being very helpful and knowledgeable as a resource, so that people will continue to trust you and look to you, especially when it's time for the problem that you solve. So that's the second thing I would think about, is in person there working the crowd. The third thing to be thinking about are follow-ups. So these are emails, these are direct messages after the fact. So let's just say, for example, I run a lunch and learn about better subscription offers, which again is what my consulting does. We do these periodically, and we get 50 people to show up. We put it on with a few partners to expand our reach. Okay, so I invited a couple of people that work in the same industry, different offerings. We pack a room. So we share like, hey, here's a QR code to schedule a call. We have this special offer about what we do. Grab that now. Then after the event's over, I'm working the crowd. I'm meeting new people. I'm connecting with people that I've talked to about their problem, but they haven't purchased from me yet, because there's a lot of different stages of leads that are going to be in this room. People that are brand new, people that have bought from you before, people that are on the fence or that you've talked to. So you want to connect with all of those people. People that have bought from you more before might buy again. Leads, you want to get to know them and what they're doing. And people that are on the fence, just continue to be their friend and provide a little bit of value, and maybe give them a little bit of nudge. Like, we really should meet with your team to kind of figure this out. Right. And then the final piece of this would be emailing, hey, here are the recordings from the sessions. Again, here's this special offer we have. It's active, and there's a lot of where marketing can come into about, creating some kind of special or uniqueness or urgency there. But those are three different ways I think about that. Now I've been to in-person events that are much more structured, and it's a complete funnel, and they'll announce that, hey, we've got only 5 spots open. If you want to grab the 5, there's a room in the back, right? Or you have to go sign up like right now. It's first come, first serve. There's a lot of urgency things you can do, or create like really clear structure around how you're engaging with people. But again, without making you feel like you have to develop this super complicated or intricate funnel, just think about that. I'm going to present an offer as part of the presentation or presentations. I'm going to meet people in person, and I'm going to email them after the fact. And then any great business is going to keep track of who is there and invite them out to another event. Or a couple weeks go by, email them again about your offer and see, or, hey, for everybody that attended, we have this special ebook that we developed, or I interviewed so-and-so on our podcast recently talking about this exact problem. You should go listen to it. It's really about touch points when we're trying to drive conversion. The event is the biggest touch point, but it provides very natural opportunities for additional touch points leading up to the event and after the event too.
No, definitely. When I'm talking to business owners about selling, touch points are very important. Piece is, that's how you build a relationship. And people aren't usually going to buy from you the first time they meet you or know about you. So, right. So the events and all your follow-ups, make it more likely that you're going to have an opportunity to do business together.
Yeah, I'll share a very quick story. This happened to me 2 years ago. One of my funnest conversion events was somebody signed up for my newsletter, and we did a virtual webinar. We had about 10 or 15 people came, and this one brand came, and they were out of the United Kingdom. And I didn't think twice about it. They're far away. We chatted very briefly on the webinar. I did the follow-up touch point with here's some more information, right? Nothing happened. And then I was at a conference, a subscription conference, the one I mentioned. And it was like a Tuesday. So my newsletter went out, and I just mentioned that I was at this, or I didn't even mention that. Just my newsletter went out. And this person replied to the newsletter. Again, they're from the United Kingdom, and the conference was in Dallas. And they replied and said, hey, are you at Sub Summit today? Because we're here and we would love to meet. And so I then have a conversation with this director of marketing and the owner of the company, who are there at this conference, talking through some of their problems. We spent 30 minutes and they became a client. And so it was a very interesting, I had no idea how engaged they were, which is, again, one of the things that I both love and hate about virtual, is you just don't really know how serious somebody is. But they showed up for something that they thought I might be, and took a shot to see if I was there. And that worked and became a client. So you just never really know how a lot of these things come out. Like at scale, you can start building in averages and conversion rates and all this stuff. But when we're dealing with small businesses and small services, it's often about just trying to create as many of these consistent touch points as possible, because some people need all of them. Some people just need one or two, but most people are going to need, 5 or 6 to make it work.
Okay. Great. So definitely appreciate everybody's comments and questions. Oh, this is a good one. I've thought about this. So should you start with a free community or a paid community? How should someone approach that?
I think you should start with paid. I wish that I could go back in time and start over with paid community, because I think those are over time easier to monetize. But I will say this, I think it makes sense to think about them as layers. So when we're thinking about a free community versus a paid community, let's think about Spotify. Okay, so Spotify is a very clear app. I'm sure most people here have used Spotify or Apple Music or some version of that. There is a free version of Spotify. You can listen to music, but you can't skip or control. You don't have as much control, and you hear ads, right? Now, there's a paid version that removes the ads and allows you more control and more features. So if you're just turning on a casual playlist while you're running or working or whatever, you don't care, that's fine. You're happy to not pay for it. But if you want a little bit more, you want a little bit more customization of your playlist and your content, you do the paid piece, right? So I would argue that it's often easier if you're starting small to start with something free. If you already, well, I'll say this, if you're launching a paid community, you generally have some kind of audience first, a TikTok following or Twitter, or, maybe a small meetup that you've been running for a while. You usually need an audience to launch a paid community into first. But if I were structuring it, I would think about, hey, here's a free offering, and here's what you get for being a paid member. Because that also allows people to some people come in and get some benefit, but maybe they're not ready for the full commitment. Maybe they don't see enough value. Maybe the timing's not right. The paid community then has more elite access to services. So thinking about it in terms of like the community that we run, we are building towards offering that, but we're trying to think of like, hey, we want to add layers of services that are only available to paid members that don't exist yet. So it's not like I can just say, oh, now suddenly this is only for paid versus free. So I would say that think about some of the easy ways you can offer value to a community. There's your free offering. Now let's get a little bit deeper. There was another comment earlier about can you be successful with a small group? And I would say yes. So think about like the metrics for this type of thing is, let's say I have 100 people that are willing to pay me $50 a month to be a member of a community. That's $5,000. Now, 100 people's not, it is a lot, but it also is not a lot. And $50 could be really, really incredible, especially if it then becomes every month. And that's money you can put into marketing and other resources to try to grow that volume up to 200, 300, 400. So say for a free community, what if I just had 200 people that were coming to free stuff, and I have 50 people that are paying to be a member? That is a fantastic foundation, because you have 250 people now that are giving you feedback. You understand what they like or what they dislike, right? You can use them to market to other people. You could run specials to have them invite people, right? You've started to build an audience out of the 200 for people to convert into your paid community. So that's how I would think about that. I always think about memberships in terms of what people get for being a member, and does it make sense for them to do that? So I'm not going to charge people $50 to watch for videos of watching me drinking out of a hydro jug. But if you want to see how I make really, really cool, fancy designs with a custom tool that you can get off Amazon, maybe I'm charging like $5 a month to have access to that content because it's more elite. So just be thinking about things in layers and value in that way.
Okay. No, that's a great point. I think definitely it's important to have a multi-prong approach.
Right.
Free or paid. But I would say many times people do free communities out of fear for asking people for money.
Yeah. And the hard part there is that there's that's that imposter syndrome. And that comes back to like the problem is, and so great example of this is early, one of my first, I'd started this little meetup, and then I teamed up with some other people to try to grow it. And we had no clue on how we were going to monetize. We just were really cool, and people would come and they just loved it. We were so cool for a while, but we had no real revenue goal. And because we were afraid to ask for money, and it failed. And so for me, it became really clear, like there's plenty of stuff that we do for free because I have a really clear picture on where and how we make money and where that value comes from and what value we're giving. But so I would say this, if you can't come up with a simple test for that, like $5 or $15, like people will give you all kinds of really interesting feedback when they don't have to spend any dollars. It's something we found it's very true in the surveying space. People all the time would say, "Oh, I'd love to buy that." Okay, well, will you give us $10 to reserve your spot to buy that? No, thanks. I'm not interested anymore. So you want to look for small ways we can start testing that. And that's something that we're working on and doing. We have been testing those things, and we're doing those right now. So right now we're launching a school in person, an e-commerce school that is free for this first cohort. And we're doing it for free just so that we can test and get feedback, because let me tell you, next year it's going to be paid. There's going to be dollars attached to being enrolled in that, but we want to make sure we have a really good footing for how this is going to work before we launch the paid version of it.
Definitely. So, yeah, I mean, it's, every business is different. Every community is different, but like you said, if you have a revenue strategy and it can be intertwined with free components,
right?
So I think, even through the university, we create community. We have our events, which are paid. We have the show, which is free. We do different things. And then, we also do business coaching, consulting, and training. So it depends on what your strategy is behind it, as to what should be paid and how much should be paid and where the value is.
Andrew, there's one of the beautiful things I think about what you're doing is it's not just that. It might feel like if somebody were, like, say, writing a paper on it for their business class, they might break down the funnels and how this all works and connects, and that would all make sense and be correct. However, as a consumer, when we start to interface with real community, we start to discover that there are so many things here for me. It's like, and there's no real risk and no real pressure. It's actually just, hey, come in, here's the free spaces and the free offerings we have. But just so you know, we've got this amazing library and pickleball court and all this stuff for paid members. People love that. The idea that even if I'm not buying all those things, I know that they're there. It creates this sense of like comfort, but also just it draws people in, and it actually I personally believe that it helps with conversions over time, because people are interacting and engaging with other people that are there and all these things. So people like to know that. So the question about free or paid, it is also a nice thing of like, oh, there is a paid element. So if I want to take this next step and get more value, it's there. Right now, I love what I'm getting. So I do think that's one of the nuances too with these layers that we have in community.
Yeah. And like you said, you really don't know how interested someone is until you get them to pay something,
right?
Even if it's like $5,
exactly.
Because like you said, people say anything, and just like I teach webinars, do training, for myself, but also for other organizations, and generally, you're doing good if you get a third of the registrants to show up, and I'm not going to complain because I do the same thing. So,
well, year one of our conference, I gave away so many tickets just to try to get bodies there, and some of it worked. Year two, we did it a little bit less, but this year we're doing 2 conferences, and I've tried really hard to not just blanket give away tickets and not just blanket give massive discounts. And so we actually had less registrations from this conference, but we made more money, and
Yep.
and we had a higher show rate. So while I had less tickets, quote unquote, sold, and I say sold in air quotes because I was giving the tickets away,
Right.
we had high quality attendees who believed in the value we're giving, that bought a ticket and showed up. And if somebody bought a ticket and didn't show up, and I mean, we only had 2 people that asked for a refund. Like, other people bought a ticket and maybe they didn't make it, but they knew that it was worth it. So they're not necessarily bugging us for a refund. It was their issue that couldn't let them go. So I do think that again, that imposter syndrome or being worried about something being paid or not, like, it's a huge risk. And I would just push you. This is advice I, again, had listened to earlier on in my community career, is I would push you to get into paid sooner than later, because not only it will just make it easier to grow your business, but it will validate your business faster. Because if somebody's not willing to pay you for it, then I really do believe this. I am a little bit of a capitalist. I'm actually very much like a social activist and all these things. But I do believe that if somebody's not willing to pay you for it, there's a misalignment with value and you're doing something wrong.
Definitely. So, the only bad thing about this show is an hour is just not long enough. Just not long enough. But everybody can only hang out so long. But
Right.
Before I let you go, definitely want to have you share 3 key takeaways. I think that it's helpful to sort of distill down what we talked about, because we did talk about a lot of things, and then just most people can't remember more than 3 things anyway. So if you could come back to us with the 3 key takeaways that you'd like people to have, and they can use those to they can start benefiting from those starting tomorrow. So I'm going to play a short video, and we'll come back and hear about the 3 key things that we should take away from the show tonight. So looking forward to that. So let's take a look. Here we go. Hi, Andrew here, and I'm excited to announce the launch of our new book, 99 Proven Tips to Accelerate Your Masterpreneur Journey. 5 years, 33 incredible guests, hundreds of powerful business lessons, and now it's all in one place. Introducing 99 Proven Tips to Accelerate Your Masterpreneur Journey, a brand new book built from the insights, wisdom, and strategies shared by the guest experts of our podcast, Leadership Live at 8:05, Talking Small Business. Inside, you'll discover actionable tips on how to launch smarter.
So if you have an idea that you have researched and you know who your customer is, and you think that you've got the experience you need, now is a perfect time to start a business. But remember, start as a side hustle first.
Grow faster.
So sales is about problem solving, not about manipulating. You have to understand the math of your business, the sales math.
Lead more effectively.
You shouldn't expect someone to be you. You have to understand and create processes to basically train people on how to handle certain situations and basically set people on the right path, right? So they can become successful within your organization.
And scale your business with confidence.
Bet on yourself and not be afraid to take risks, and to know that you have within you the ability to accomplish your dreams and accomplish your goals.
Think like an entrepreneur. Now, I know there may be many entrepreneurs listening, but there may be some who aren't entrepreneurs. It's all well and good. I'm here to say entrepreneurship is not just something you do, it's a way that you think. And the characteristics of an entrepreneur's thinking are creativity, resourcefulness, courage, resilience, and passion.
This isn't theory, it's practical advice straight from entrepreneurs and thought leaders who have done it. 5 years of conversations, 33 voices of experience, and now 99 tips to accelerate your masterpreneur journey. Get your copy today. Pre-order now to reserve your signed copy. Click the button below or scan the QR code to order from www.sbprousyou.com/99-tips. All right. Okay, welcome back to Leadership Live at 8:05. I'm talking small business with Matt Holman. Our topic tonight is leading with value, turning community and content into revenue. So, Matt, we covered a lot of things tonight, but what are the top 3 takeaways that you'd like people to, take into account and utilize to be more successful in what they're trying to do?
Yeah, here we got 3. They're all going to tie together, I think, but really, I think as I think about it, this is the masterclass to community building. And the first one, which I'd say is probably the most important one, is to be really clear on why people come. Not why you think they should come, but why they come. You can learn that through surveying and talking and all these things, but you want to be really clear on why people come. If you don't know that, you're going to make mistakes on how you present the community, who you bring to come out as a speaker, how you sell, all those things. Be really clear on why people come, why they care. Because if you can do that, it unlocks all these other formats we've talked about, whether you're virtual, online, and how you sell and all these things. So be really clear on that. The second was consistency. I cannot state enough that there have been other communities in my exact same space that have started in Utah and have fizzled out and died because they just couldn't stick with it. So showing up, but it's not just doing the same thing every single time. It's taking some small risks at times to do something different, to dabble with a different format. Again, keeping clear with this vision of why people come, but we're going to show up over and over again for the community, right? And then the final one was not one I would have thought about before we started this conversation, but we had such a great discussion about this in questions. And that is, think about pay is sooner than you might think. Find small ways you can get people to make a commitment, whether that's a ticket sale, whether that's just splitting the cost of dinner or something simple like that. Have people put their money up to show that they're serious sooner than you might think, even if you're afraid that nobody will come. But that comes back to those other things. If you're clear on why people should come, you're consistently showing up, you need to push to make it revenue generating, both for the sake of the business being able to grow, but people having buy-in. So those would be my 3 things to take away tonight.
Excellent. So clarity, getting the feedback, figuring out where the value is for your target market. If you want to monetize it, it's about providing value. And, if you can get them to tell you what the value they're looking for, that's going to move you forward better. Just think of it as your target market. Consistency, hugely important. I think a lot of people start out with overly ambitious goals on different communities or doing a podcast or doing a newsletter. And as a result, they end up not being consistent. And that, rather than trying to do it every week, maybe start every month. Whatever you commit to, as long as you do that, that's really what consistency is about. And start small. You don't have to, start big. And then, even if it's just you or you and a person, keep doing it. Because it takes a little while. You're going to get better. More people are going to know about what you're doing. And, as you adjust, you figure out where the value is and who's the right people for the community. And of course, have people pay sooner, but it doesn't have to be like a high ticket pay. It's just some indication that they demonstrated they value what you're doing. So no, this has been excellent. Matt, I appreciate you joining me tonight. We've got your LinkedIn profile as well as website in the chat. So anyone who wants to connect with Matt further, you've got info to do it there. Anything else you want to share before we close out, Matt?
There's one question about what makes a community meaningful. And while dollars are nice, for me, it is the people that tell me that this is their favorite conference, or this is something that they rely on, something that they count on. That's, to me, the measure of a successful community.
I couldn't agree more. With my breakfasts, I had several times when I wanted to stop, but that person's like, "When's the next one? I can't wait."
Yep. You know it.
And then you're like, all right. So, so definitely, it's got to be more than just about money. There's a lot of other ways to make money, probably easier, at least quicker many times.
Yeah.
So once again, thanks, Matt. If you can hang out for a second while I close things out. Excellent. So, once again, definitely appreciate everybody tuning in. Once again, another great guest. I hope you learned some things as well. And, really excited about each of our guests. And actually next week is a special guest because actually my brother is going to be our guest. He leads a national nonprofit, and we're going to talk about making a profit as a nonprofit, because nonprofits are businesses too. And it's becoming harder and harder to get grants and donations. So you have to generate revenue around different things that you're doing as well. So he's going to talk about how you can do that as a nonprofit. So hopefully, if you're available, come join us next Tuesday night, 8 p.m. And always remember that, actually, before I say that, just want to give you some dates to put on the calendar. So, during the summer, we always have our conference. So this summer, July 31st, save the date, is going to be our Masterpreneur Growth Symposium. And we're going to have that in at the Park Avenue Club in Florham Park, New Jersey. And during lunch, we're going to do our Masterpreneur of the Year Awards. So hopefully you can join us if you're in the area, or if you're not in the area and want to come through and spend the weekend in New York or whatever, make a trip out of it. So so you'll be hearing more about it, but just put that on your calendar. And then always remember, at the end of the day, the more that you know, the faster and more successfully your business is going to grow.
Thank you for listening to Leadership Live at 8:05, Talking Small Business. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and to the podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Leadership Live is one of the many valuable resources provided through the Small Business Pro University, empowering business owners to learn, profit, and grow. Find out more at sbpro.u.com.